Court in session. Welcome once again. I'm your host, Justice Hype, and this is Court in Session, where you or I could be the judge, jury, plaintiff, or defendant. It's all based on your personal perspective and, most importantly, factual information. All opinions here and all viewpoints, conclusions are based on factual information and empirical data, more so than feelings and emotions. I welcome you in if you are one of those who are open-minded and able to form opinions based on your own independent research and own independent thought. Welcome. Moving forward, we get into what could be, unfortunately, another youth sporting event marred by violence, in which we have the video which is going viral of the track meet in Virginia, the high school state championship track meet, in which there was a exchange by one Alaila Everett, who is seen on the video striking the victim here, whose name is Kaelen Tucker, and as a result allegedly suffered a fractured skull and also a concussion as a result of being struck allegedly by Miss Alaila Everett from her baton. And though I did name this video, it is entitled Track and Felony. No, Mrs. Everett or Miss Everett was officially charged with misdemeanor assault and battery as a result of what we see in the video, which I'll let you check out at the end of our case filing here as we review the information and the facts concerning this case. The video shows Alaila Everett striking or what seems to be striking Kaelen Tucker, and as a result her falling off of the track and to the side of the track onto the ground, and in which they said it's being reported that she has received a fractured skull and a concussion. And subsequently we have seen an outpour of public backlash from people who are adamant that Alaila Everett was guilty and she intentionally struck Kaelen Tucker. And I would be the first to say that in this era of trolling and doxing, with these being teenagers especially, not even adults, I mean a lot of what has been said has been extremely out of bounds and unnecessary, especially the doxing that I've seen of this young lady online, and some of the commentary that's been made towards this young lady, regardless of how we feel about what we saw on the video, her guilt or innocence. I think that some discernment has to be used in how we approach the situation, as these are not yet even adults. And we haven't heard anything after this incident from the victim here, Kaelen Tucker. And I keep saying the victim because Kaelen Tucker in essence is the real victim, even though the narrative has been spun publicly with special interest groups like the NAACP coming out and adamantly defending Alaila Everett and her innocence, and Alaila coming out herself and proclaiming that she is innocent as well. But what I don't understand and what I've yet to see is, first and foremost, an acknowledgement. What I believe would be the best way to go about in hashing out this whole matter between both parties, first and foremost, is there being some sort of public acknowledgement that something went wrong here. She was struck by the baton, and if it was an accident, then there is no reason why a genuine, sincere apology can't be extended to Kaelen Tucker for what transpired at this track meet. Up to now, I have yet to see any type of acknowledgement, and that is a huge problem I have with this particular issue, and in general in our society, the lack of acknowledgement from especially adults, but just across the board, there is widespread lack of acknowledgement and accountability from people when clearly in the wrong. And I'm not saying that she did this intentionally. I'm not saying that she did do it intentionally. She didn't, or she did do it intentionally. But what I'm saying is that whether, regardless of intentional or unintentional, Kaelen Tucker was struck by the baton. She fell out of her lane. It caused her to subsequently either trip or in whatever way fall, and as a result sustain injury. And as to the severity of her injuries, of course that will be litigated in the court of law. And I do think it's going to be very difficult for prosecutors in this case to prove without reasonable doubt that Alaila Everett was guilty of assault and battery, just due to the fact that in her training as a sprinter, it is natural for her arms to swing in a particular motion, and she cannot control the proximity. I'm not a track expert, so I don't know how the spacing works. I was told, or I read somewhere, that there is some type of protocol for how overtaking is done, or how someone can maneuver on the track when trying to overtake the person in front of them. And once again, this will all be laid out in a court of law, and my personal outlook is that though on the videotape it looks like she's swinging and she's striking, you can see that Miss Tucker was struck twice, and it does look like her hand does move back in a motion, like she was actually swinging the baton to strike and aiming to strike Miss Tucker. But once again, it's going to be very difficult to prove this in a court of law, in my estimation. Also, just a tidbit of information. I looked this up. A track baton weighs about 50 grams, which is about 1 3/4 ounces. So let's just say an empty spray can, and it's made out of light aluminum. If you're familiar, aluminum is a very light metal. It's not a very heavy metal like iron, so to speak. Very light in weight. So it is very questionable whether a baton swinging has the weight and the force can be generated in order to create a fractured skull, much less a concussion. That once again will be examined in a court of law, and I really think that that's going to be very difficult to prove. But once again, we shall see. It's just very unfortunate once again that we see where there's some sort of violent exchange at a sporting event, in particular a youth sporting event, where these events are supposed to be to bring not only student athletes together, but families and friends together in celebratory fashion, and very, very light-mannered fashion, in which and it should be all celebratory and everybody enjoying themselves, as it's a sporting event. It's entertainment, it's fun, and yet unfortunately we end off like this. But I'm gonna leave the video and you drop the final verdict. What do you say? What happened here? Was Miss Everett guilty or innocent of assault and battery with the track baton?
What started as a fierce race for second place turned into a shocking act of violence at the Virginia State Indoor Track Championships. During the 4x200-meter relay, Brookville High's Kaelen Tucker was fighting for position when her opponent from IC Norcom High did the unthinkable. Instead of running fair, she wound up and struck Tucker in the head with her baton. Gas filled the arena as Kaelen stumbled and collapsed. A concussion, a possible skull fracture, and yet, no apology, no remorse. Despite being disqualified, Norcom's team didn't check on Kaelen. No coaches, no athlete, nothing. Kaelen and her family are left with one question: why? The Virginia High School League says safety is a priority, but is that enough?